Hey friends, welcome back to our channel where we talk about all things motherhood. In case you're new here, my name is Alana.
And I'm Andrea. With everything going on right now, we know that a lot of you will have a very hard decision to make when it comes to the next school year. So we thought we'd make this video for those of you who will choose to homeschool or on the fence of homeschooling. We want to make sure that this transition is as easy as possible for you. So we are currently going into our 7th year of homeschooling, and we are homeschooling 3 out of our 4 because our youngest is a baby, and we go from 5th grade all the way down to kindergarten.
And I am a newer homeschooling mama. I have a 3 and 4-year-old. They're a little bit younger, so I do preschool with them, but I also have 1-year-old twins that are running around while I'm homeschooling the older ones. So mamas, hopefully this is helpful. These are going to be our top 10 tips to get you started homeschooling.
Number 1, do not try to bring the classroom home. As a former high school teacher, I tried to do everything to replicate the classroom, including things like having the children raise their hand if they have a question or if they need help with something, which is a huge mistake because it just doesn't run smoothly that way. So a full day kindergarten is typically 7 hours, at least in our state. You don't have to replicate that and do 7 hours at home. If you're working one-on-one with your child, or maybe 1 to 2, you will be able to get through everything a lot faster than a teacher who has 15 to 20 kids in one classroom.
For example, with my 4-year-old who I do kindergarten with, we get our Bible, math, and reading done within an hour. Number 2, it's really important to follow a daily schedule so that your day does not get away from you.
Yes, but a loose schedule so that, again, you're not replicating the classroom. It's okay to write down the subjects that you need to cover, but don't set a specific time. It doesn't have to be 50 minutes like I used to do and set a timer. It can be 20 minutes for one and then move on to the next one. The next one could take 45 minutes, especially for the older kids.
Along with that, you do not have to do every subject every single day. A lot of homeschoolers alternate social studies and science, so you do one every other day. A lot of homeschoolers also are able to fit in all of their schooling into 4 days a week, and then they use that 5th day to do a co-op, or they do their electives that day, such as art and music, or they do field trips that day. You can really tailor it to however you want it done in your home.
Number 3, be flexible, not only with your schedule, but also with the curriculum that you're using with your children. Sometimes you may buy a curriculum, and honestly, some people won't have the finances to switch. It's okay to stick it out and to tweak things to make it work for your family. And you just learn and grow for the next year, so you could choose something else.
Along with that, one of the benefits of homeschooling is you can be flexible with your curriculum. So if you realize that it's not working for your child, you can change it to something else that you think your child will enjoy more or that they will gain more from. You can also tweak the curriculum that you do have, so you can skip certain parts if your child already knows it, or if they're not getting it and it's making them frustrated, and come back to it later and spend more time on that. It's one of the really nice things about homeschooling is you really can just do what's best for your child.
Yes, and we cannot emphasize being flexible enough. I think often parents jump into it and they want to replicate the classroom, and they want to set a certain time aside, and they want to use this curriculum even though it doesn't work for their own family. So feel free to include more games, to include more field trips, to let your child lead using their interests.
Keep in mind, if the curriculum is not working for you, you can also change it. If it's too hands-on and it's wearing you out and you just don't have the time to do the prep work for that specific curriculum, you can change it not just for your child, but also if it's not working for you as the teacher.
If you watched our previous video, I've mentioned this before. We started using Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons, and it created tears for our oldest one. I didn't like it, but the truth is, I didn't have the finances to switch to a different one, and I was just stuck in my ways on like, this has to work. Everyone said this book works. And so I attempted it again with our second one, and I just tweaked the whole thing to work for our family, and I absolutely love it now. And I would have actually been disappointed to have gotten rid of it.
And I actually started with that one and I switched to a different one because I just didn't like it and I wanted to try something that I thought would be more fun for us.
Don't fall into this trap. You get to the end of the school year, the curriculum shows you still have 2 weeks left, but according to your schedule that you laid out, you did your 34 weeks. You could either continue and finish it and go past the 34 weeks, or it's okay to be done. It's okay to put that curriculum away and be finished for the school year. I wish somebody would have told me that, because this was our 6th year of homeschooling and this is the first year I actually did that. Number 4, be creative, which is so easy to say, but we want to give you some examples of how you can be creative. So for example, if your child loves space, pause on a few things and take that time to focus on a unit study doing space things, maybe even going to the planetarium for them to check it out, including field trips on the topics that they're interested in.
You can even be creative in looking for opportunities to teach life skills.
For example, like cooking or gardening or building something. I mean, oftentimes when we're in the kitchen, there's definitely math involved, and it's nice for them to actually take what they learned in the schoolroom and apply it to real life. Oftentimes, it feels like we focus on ABCs, 1, 2, 3s. Oh, you don't know how to multiply that quickly. But in reality, there's plenty of young adults who don't know how to do their own laundry or who don't know how to manage a house, and those are still important skills for them to learn.
Number 5, buy used curriculum. If you buy everything new, it'll be super expensive and you will blow through your budget so quickly. But there are so many Facebook groups that you can find online specific to different curriculum that you're looking for. Homeschool Curriculum Marketplace is one of them, and you can find such good deals on there. And eBay is another place you can find good deals on curriculum.
Number 6, family subjects. When it comes to math and language arts, you will have to teach it based on the child's grade. But when it comes to science, history, even art, you can actually teach it to all your kids at the same time and just have different expectations for each one. So for example, if you're teaching science to all your kids, your kindergartner may just have to answer a few questions or explain to you what they learned, versus a first or second grader can write a few sentences, and then as you get to the older grades, they can even write more or even turn it into a whole project for them.
For lots of companies, they already tailor their science and social studies curriculums this way. For example, Apologia Science, they have a junior notebook and journal and then a regular notebook and journal. For Sassafras Science, they have log books for the older kids and lap books for the younger kids. For The Good and the Beautiful, they have extra activities for the older kids so they can go more in depth in the subjects that they're learning. So just look for a company where you can teach all your kids using the same book.
Number 7, meal plan. In the middle of the day, the last thing you want to do is figure out what you're having for lunch as you're actually teaching or possibly even tending to like a younger child. So it's really important to meal plan for the week, or even have a list of breakfast items, lunch items, dinner items written out so that you're not using any more brain space to come up with that meal.
Number 8, read aloud to your kids. We cannot emphasize enough how important it is to read together as a family.
Someone told me this in my first year of homeschooling, and it still sticks out to me to this day, and I share it with everyone, which is reading will cover a multitude of sins. And I think it's so important when a kid is sick or you're having a hard day, honestly, just switch to the read aloud. They're going to get a lot from it. If they're struggling with punctuation, they're going to see it when they read it. If they're struggling with spelling, they're going to see it when they read it. So reading aloud to them and giving them that opportunity to even read on their own is really, really, really crucial.
Number 9, this is probably our most important tip that we will give you. Do not try to do too much. There are so many stories of homeschoolers trying to pile on so many subjects and trying to do too many things their first year. It overwhelms their kids, it overwhelms them, and it just does not end well for anybody.
And you don't want your child to reach that point where they don't like learning or they're burned out with school because you bombarded them with way too much to do. And I can tell you, I am a victim of that. I try to do so much because that's what the school does. They have so many subjects they covered, and they covered it for 50 minutes. I don't think I ever sat down to think, stop trying to cover something for 50 minutes. It's okay if they're done in 20 minutes. You don't have to fill that extra time with busy work. It's okay to just move on. One book I really benefited from was Teaching from Rest. There's a quote in there that really stood out to me. It said, think about the curriculum that you're using. If there's something that you can remove that would not change where your child is, so for example, if you remove it, your child would still do really well, it wouldn't really change their academia much, take it out. Basically, if you're not going to die without the curriculum, you can remove it from it. And let me tell you, I literally walked the next day into the schoolroom and I said, we are removing this particular thing, because it was really just busy work. It was something for them to do on their own, but they weren't really getting much from it. So feel free to remove that extra thing.
For the younger kids, don't force them to do too much too early. They thrive by learning through play. And so, for example, with my 4-year-old when she was 3, I had started her on doing like math and reading, and I had her doing a phonics curriculum, and I had her doing science, and it was just way too much. Like, she just needed to play, and she learned a lot through just going outside and looking at through nature.
So make sure you let them play, play, play. Do not jump into starting them really early on an actual curriculum.
Number 10, give yourself grace.
And a lot of it.
So many of us fall into the trap of just always feeling like we're not doing enough or that our child is falling behind. We look at other people's kids and think, oh, that person's reading at 3 years old and my child still isn't reading and they're 5. Every child grows at their own pace. They learn at their own pace. It is okay. You are not failing your children.
And it's okay if your child doesn't go to Harvard, because let's be real, we all turn out fine, and a lot of us did not go to Harvard. And so feel free to ask for help and start the next day, honestly remembering that God has given you grace every single morning.
One thing to remember is that we want to instill a love of learning in our kids. We don't just want to drill them with facts and make them memorize things. We want them to have a desire and a passion to learn. And so we can do that by making things fun, being flexible, tailoring their education to them and how they learn, and just enjoying it together as a family. So there you go. Those were our top 10 tips. If you found any of this helpful, please feel free to give us a thumbs up. If you have any other tips to add for us, please comment down in the comment section below and subscribe to our channel.